Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Recruiters with No Limits. Always live and never scripted. I'm here with my co-host and sidekick, John Ruffini. What's up, John?
What's going on? Happy holidays to all.
Hey, sounds good. And we're going to bring our guest on. There's no introduction here. This guy has been in the industry longer than Tom Brady's been alive. So, I mean, he is a legend. Jay Maturin to the show. What's up, Jay?
Hey, we didn't plan for that. That wasn't in the script.
Hey, we never have a script around here. You know that. That's what makes us different.
You never know what's going to come out of Richard's mouth, Jay.
You know, I wish I could
exactly
as good as he does. But anyway, that's
Well, Jay, we're going to just jump into this real quick, but I got something I want to show you guys. Okay, we have a shortage all across the nation, but here's something that we're all going to say, wow. Santa Claus, there is a shortage. You know that, guys, right?
Yes, of course.
That's
John, what do you think of that? I mean, Santa Claus, labor shortage.
That's it's pretty bad when you're running out of Santas. But that falls in line, unfortunately, with everything else we're seeing. I mean, it's hard to find people to do jobs, and I guess I don't know that to me, if I was a seasonal Santa, that would be something that I would continue to do just because I think it would be a fun job to do.
That's right. I wonder if there's a shortage of elves too.
Yes.
There must be, right?
All I know is the rate for Santa right now is over $100 an hour now. So it's like going through the roof.
Wow. Good time to have a naturally long white beard.
Exactly.
Or buy one somewhere.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, hey, Jay, tell everybody that doesn't know you, because anybody in the staffing industry knows who you are. Just tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we'll deep dive into our good old chat here.
All right. Well, I don't think everybody knows about me, but anyway, I appreciate that. So I started in staffing. I co-founded a staffing company in 1987. There were two other partners. The three of us knew absolutely nothing about this industry, and we thought, well, like most entrepreneurs, it can't be that hard. I mean, really, come on, So now, fortunately, the landscape wasn't nearly as saturated or competitive then as it is now. There was Manpower and Kelly and other names that aren't even around anymore, but there weren't as many. So we were fortunate to get in the late 80s, and the biggest hurdle was, do you have enough capital to be able to fund your ongoing growth? Because as we know in this industry, you got to pay a payroll for 8 weeks minimum before you get paid at all. Sometimes it's 12 weeks, and sometimes it's never. Right? So the biggest challenge was, do we have enough capital? And fortunately, we had that, and we figured it out as we went along. Company continued to grow. We were first just a local firm in Indiana, and then we grew. I would say we became a regional. So, the contiguous states, we decided to branch out a little bit. And then from there, you go out a little bit further. And then we made some acquisitions. And before we knew it, we were saying, hey, we're a nationwide company. How about that? Then somebody came along from France and said, well, we'd like to have an operation in the U.S. And we think you guys would be perfect for that. And we said, we think you're right. What's your number? Anyway, the long and the short is we partnered with Group Crete, a $2 billion staffing firm headquartered in Paris, and then continued to grow from there. And then I retired as CEO at the end of 2019 and thought I was going to, just kind of hang out for a while, and ended up falling into a new gig. So now I'm providing marketing solutions back to my friends in the industry and having a ball doing it.
So you're telling me, Jay, you're more active now or before? Because you're active on ASA Central and everything all the time now. I can imagine you back in the day when you were CEO and stuff. Yeah. Holy cow.
Yeah, much more now, really, much more. Like you said, I don't do anything. I've got plenty of time, so.
Someone tells me you do a thing or two.
Hey, Santa Claus is calling your name.
Oh gosh. There are two companies that you're affiliated with. Obviously, Terra, which, by the way, I love that name, and Villing and Company. Yeah. Now they both deal with marketing. How do they differ from each other? Yeah. Is one strictly staffing and the other is broad, or is there a difference in them?
Yeah, great question, John. So finishing that story that I just told. So I retired at the end of 2019 as CEO of People Inc. Group. And then I was contacted a month later by the guy that owns Villing and Company, who in fact, side note, Villing and Company was my marketing firm for probably 15 years on and off while I was in staffing. So I actually hired a marketing company, and I actually did marketing, and they helped with that. So he calls me in January and says, look, I know you just retired, but I'm getting ready to retire. I'm going to sell the business. I think you should buy this. And anyway, the long and the short of it is that's what I ended up doing. So I acquired Villing and Company, which has a fantastic team of creative people and web designers and copy and everything that I needed to say, okay, guys, now Villing and Company provides regional marketing solutions to the local greater Northern Indiana market. So, I've got this great team. Look, guys, we're also going to create a second company. We're going to provide these same solutions to all of my friends in the industry and staffing industry. So Terra Firma is pointed specifically for staffing, but Villing is still then providing local services here to the clients we service here.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So good question though, John.
Always makes me, I was curious when I was doing some research and looking at them both. I was like, okay, I think I know the difference, but I wanted to get you to explain it. So it's nice you have a local and a bigger footprint presence through the other vehicle, which is nice.
Yeah, but I can tell you right now, as you would suspect, what's taking off with abandon is the Terra Firma side of this. I mean, it's because I know people in staffing. I have that background that I bring a comprehensive view, not just marketing, but I can look at the whole organization and say, you know what, based on the resources you have, the people you got, how your business is structured, the kinds of clients you have, the verticals you're in, this is the way I think you need to proceed in terms of a marketing strategy. And
you got a great vision. It's that vision scope. You can see the whole thing.
Yeah, folks that aren't in the industry, all they can bring to the table, which nothing wrong with that, but all they can bring to the table is a marketing solution. It's difficult for them to be able to look at the entire organization and say, does this really make sense? Or can this staffing organization pull this off?
And I love you said that, Jay, real quick, because I see marketing companies all the time say they can market for staffing companies. If you're not in this industry, you have no clue what you need to say. Seriously, you got to eat and sleep this. What you do, man, you're the guru when it comes to that stuff. Trust me.
Well, we picked up a number of staffing clients who tried to work with somebody that doesn't have that experience, and it just didn't work. First of all, it's like, well, it's hard for a generic marketing agency to understand what you have two sets of clients. You mean your candidates are like clients too, and your staffing clients are clients, and what? And I wrote a piece not too long ago trying to delineate the fact that staffing firms really do both kinds of marketing. That is, they do B2B marketing for their client side of their business, but they have to do B2C marketing for their candidates. And they all the generic agencies will come in and say, well, this is B2B, so they'll build a B2B program, which is great for snagging new clients, but it doesn't resonate with, when you're trying to acquire candidates. And let's be totally honest, everybody in staffing, that's their focus right now. I mean, they're hoping the phone doesn't ring when they get more orders because they can't fill them. They can't fill what they've got.
You know what, Jay, real quick, before John jumps in here, I never got this, and we talk about this all the time. You have all these orders, but you keep going for more new clients.
Yeah.
What is going on here?
I talked to a client last week, and one of the things they were agonizing about was, their brand acquiring new clients. And I said, stop it. I said, how many salespeople do you have? Well, I got X number of salespeople. What are they doing? Well, they're out making cold calls and, getting more orders. Put them on a desk. Teach them how to. Can't they fill some orders? I mean, at least they can make calls. The sales call is very similar to a candidate, at least the initial call,
yes,
to a prospective client. So let them make calls out of the database. Just get some people lined up for the recruiters. Don't get any more orders. You're just killing yourself.
Yeah, we've pretty much in-house. We've over the past 6-8 months, we've close to double the amount of recruiters we have. We've been on a hiring spree because we realized that that's the only way that we're going to get the bandwidth to compete and deliver effectively. There's only so much, even if you have a group of recruiters that are maxed out and have great books of business, there's only so much more they can put on their plate. So you've got to bring in more manpower and distribute it to go after and get those candidates. Because you're right, Jay, that is the biggest challenge right now across all industries from what I'm seeing within staffing is, it's the candidate shortage and there's not enough of them out there to deliver, and there's still a huge demand.
Well, not only that, John, but the other part of this then is not only is it, stop trying to acquire new clients, but how about looking at your clients, the ones that are at the bottom that have low margins, that are hard to fit, the purple squirrel order, Get rid of those, or else,
Yep.
or else just set them to the side. Don't
Yep.
get rid of those. Let's be a little more focused and disciplined on the orders that you're working on.
And I
You're
think
exactly right.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, Richard. I think companies need to understand that. To your point, if you're a difficult company to work with and you are not as flexible and not as partnering with your recruiting firm that you're working with, and your compensation is not in line with market, and you're requiring multiple interviews, and you're just making it difficult, those types of companies are going to lose out regardless of if you're working with a recruiter or not. But if you want the assistance of a recruiter, it's got to be a partnership, and you've got to be open to changing your ways and taking the advice of the skilled recruiter as far as, hey, if you want this talent, here's what we can do, but here's how we got to do it. And if not, to your point, Jay, that recruiter's got to cut bait, because there are other companies that would be more than happy to work with them.
Exactly. Right.
So true. And I think real quick, guys, here's what you need to do. If you have a low margin client, like I always say, go in and talk to them and say, you'll never get your staff unless you just start upping the rates. You got to have that conversation with them before you throw them away,
If you can support that with data, then it's a money conversation. If I totally agree with you, Richard, if I go into a client and I say, hey, we need X amount of money, on an hourly rate, we need $10 more an hour to compete. If I have supporting data, that makes a great argument. So if I can say, hey, our competitors are paying X, Y, and Z, we're paying B. We're losing out because of that. And here's where they're placing them, and here's where they're hiring them. If we up it to this amount, then I'm confident we can supply it. If you provide that data, they're usually fairly open.
Yes.
If you go in there just saying, well, I just need more money, then usually that's a harder argument to win, because they don't understand why.
Got to have the facts, brother. Got to have the facts. So I tell you what, Jay, we're going to shift gears right here. I'm going to show you a picture real quick. John's like, holy cow, here we go.
I love
We're
it.
going to describe this, and I'm sure it happened to all of us so far. How many times have we went to a restaurant or Dairy Queen or anywhere, and it's all drive-through? Nobody's even open anymore because they can't find staff. I see it all the time. Dunkin' Donuts by my house is only open till noon. That's it. They're like, we can't find no staff.
Okay, that
What do you
right there is
think,
a
Jay?
crime.
What do you think's going on with this, Jay? How do we solve this, my man? You're the guru.
Yeah, I'm the guru. Well, let's first of all, you have to make sure you whenever you're trying to solve a problem, you make sure you're not trying to solve the symptom, but you're really trying to get the underlying problem, right? And so we kind of have to go back and say, all right, what led to this? How did we get, begin with the end in mind? What led to this? Well, it started out with a horrible pandemic last year, right? We get that. But what happened? Well, we threw $2 billion at it last year. Then we threw another $1 billion at it last year at the end of the year. Now we've thrown another $2 billion on top of that this year. We got another $2 billion scheduled, right? So we're, $7 or $8 billion into this thing. And a big portion of that money, that government money, of course, as we all know, was set aside to supplement people who weren't working. And so you've got an extended unemployment benefit, you've got tax credits for children. There were a lot of gimmies in there that people were able to, early on, well, it was extremely important, right? I mean, people were going to lose everything. But as this went on and, things started the COVID numbers started to drop, they still have plenty of cash. And so these folks, the saving rates, I saw the other day, the saving rates in the US is almost doubled. A lot of these people have banked this cash, and they're just, they don't have high overheads. A lot of these people, that they can live on, relatively little amount of money. And so we've still got folks that are working through this. So what is the solution? Well, the solution is we have to clear the playing field and get this economy back to where it will be more inducive for people to go to work. The incentive right now in the past has been to avoid going to work. We have to make sure the incentive is going back to work. Now, unfortunately, again, the packages that we've sold already, and the one that's on the table in Congress right now, is going to continue to provide additional incentive not to go to work, which is why I keep telling people, everybody I talk to in the industry, I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon. But we just have to keep chipping away at it.
That's frightening to me.
Well said.
And I agree 100% with your sentiments there and your analysis. And it boggles my mind that, again, if we're looking to improve our economy and get it back, we need workers. To your point earlier, when we were talking offline before the show started, our country is not what it can be unless it's producing goods.
Right.
And to produce goods, you need people. And if you can't get the people, you can't produce the goods, and then you're relying on imports, and then that's counter to what you want as a productive economy. So it's I agree with you. I don't think we've seen the end of it, and I don't think we've seen the impact in full of what it's going to have on our economy, unfortunately.
No. And here's the other thing about this. We targeted lower paid and lower skilled people, which you would expect that's where you want to put this, right? I understand that. But the other thing we've learned as a result is there's a ripple effect here throughout the entire labor force. So if you build in an incentive at a certain level and it takes people out of the workforce at a certain level, well, that has a ripple effect all the way up. So that's the other thing that's happening here is we thought, well, we felt like we were targeting the people that needed it the most, but the problem was there are unintended consequences with this, like most other things, that now we said, well, maybe look what happened as a result, right?
Agreed. In 2021, Jay, what have you observed? I mean, heck, our industry went through radical change and adjustment, and in many ways. But what did you observe as what challenges were staffing firms dealing with this year that might have been unique or unusual compared to a normal quote unquote staffing year?
Yeah, great question. I think the first thing out of the gate is the fact that, and it's kind of always been this way, even in recessions, and maybe it's been a little different, but it always snaps back rather quickly. But the industry has the leverage has always tended to be with the client and not with the candidate. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, we would go to the client and say, hey, I'm going to increase my bill rate. Well, I got other people waiting in line, so you're fired. I'll get the next guy. The client had all the leverage. That model has completely flipped. The candidates are the ones that have all the leverage now. And back to what you were saying a little while ago, John, about these low margin clients. Certainly, they have to understand why the pay rates have to go up. But on the other hand, that's a signal to me. Any client that's pushing back on increasing their pay rates just doesn't get it. Doesn't understand that they don't have leverage anymore. It's not your call. It's just not your call. It's the candidates. So unless you're going to understand that the candidates now have all the leverage, and again, it's never been that way. It's been this way now for a year, right? It's never been that way. I mean, I think back to 2008, 2009, and that was a whole different matter. And really, that's the second part of this that I think people need to understand. This is not like the recession we came out, the Great Recession, right, of 08 and 09, or the one in about 2001, 2002. This isn't a normal economic cycle. This is completely different. It's
a great point.
This has been imposed on the economy, right? This isn't a normal business cycle. The problem is we're trying to deal with it like we do when it's a normal recession, and it's not working. So, I have clients that say, well, I'm going to double my ad spend. I'm going to triple my ad spend. I'm telling them you're wasting your time. I think you should cut your ad spend in half and come up with a creative referral program, because that's where you're getting the vast majority of your. So spend more money on a referral. Put some money out there to get people to refer them to you, and quit spending it on job boards, because you can double your spend, but you're not going to double your return. You'll only get an incremental return. So you're wasting your money.
You're so true on that, Jay. And you know what? I think John agrees on this. Our industry is going to bloom. I mean, next year, almost every company is going to use a staffing firm because they can't do it on their own. They can't find the talent. So we're going to be to the forefront. But I think staffing firms, you tell me, Jay, they're still not changing. People are still in their old ways of the job boards and everything else. We have to be more creative now. What do you think?
No, that's exactly right. It's again, we're back to what I said. We're trying to do the same thing, thinking something different will happen, and we all know that's the definition of insanity, right? It's not going to work. And so, but the underlying mistake that we're making is we're trying to treat this as if it's a normal cycle, and it's not. So that's the first thing we have to understand is all bets are off the table. So like you're saying, Richard, hey, we got to get creative. Throw out everything that you did in 2008, 2009. That isn't going to work. We got to figure out, what are the things that are going to work? And it's everything that we're not doing now. And automation is great, but that's the other thing I have to caution staffing firms on. It's not going to solve all your problems. Let me buy one of these and buy one of those, and then they end up with all these integrated tools that they don't know what they can't optimize them, and so again they're right back where they started from.
You're totally right on that. We sum it up, John, all the time. Human connection, Jay. You know that. At the end of the day, all this automation, without that connection with the candidate, it's not worth anything.
It always will.
It's always going to be built on relationships, and that you can start a relationship electronically, but you can't deepen a relationship electronically, and that'll never change. I remember I always go back to, I date myself when I talk about when Monster hit the climate and hit the industry, and everybody said, "Oh God, recruiters are going to become obsolete." And many interrupters and disruptors and innovators later, we're complementing our efforts with those technologies, but it won't replace what a recruiter can bring to the table. And I think most companies and candidates understand that, and they still want that human interaction to some extent. A lot of times they want to pick and choose how much of it they do, but that also depends on what kind of relationship they want with their recruiters.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think we have to feel our way out of this. I mean, I hate to say that because, it's, staffing folks are very deliberate about planning and strategically being, positioned. And I just think we just have to feel our way out of this. And why do I say that? Well, there's still all these uncertainties out there. Now we've got another variant, and I don't know, what's going to happen there. Is this going to replay all over again? Who knows what's going to happen there? We've got an economy that's, inflation's running in excess of 6%, and the Feds keep saying it's transitory. Well, I guess Jay Powell, I think just yesterday, finally said, to quote, I think he said, well, we're going to retire the word transitory. So they're not even buying it anymore. Inflation's not going to go away anytime soon. Why? Because we're $8 billion, and we've created $8 billion and threw it into our system, and more money chasing the same amount of fewer goods. Well, what happens? Well, the prices go up. So I think there's so many uncertainties. I feel badly for the staffing firms that are trying to plan and budget for next year. SIA, I don't know if you looked at their September report, their projections for next year, and they're projecting the industry going up 4%. That's on a 16% increase this year. But of course, you can't be fooled by that. That 16% increase follows an 11% downturn. Right, so 5% gap in there. Then the other thing you have to think about, I think, in that 5% gap in 2021 is I think it's artificially. Well, I know it's artificially inflated by the all the travel nurses. The healthcare vertical blew up. I mean, it's like 25% increase, something like that. So you probably got to take $3 billion in revenue or maybe more out of that increase. That's a one-time, because next year. SIA is projecting a significant, I think, a 9% downturn in the healthcare, and just trying to get back to normal. So I don't know how do you budget for that? 11% previous year, 16% this year, 4% next year. Who knows what the numbers going to be?
Your year-over-year comparisons are really not accurate comparisons.
They're not at all, not at all.
So I got to ask you guys. You ready for this? Both of you, since John's in the healthcare. What do you guys think of the healthcare industry going in 2022 with required, you must be tested, you must have the vaccination? Are we going to see a lot of nurses quitting and that industry just drop off? What's going to happen? I mean, interesting
you should say that, Richard, because we just got an email this morning from our parent company CEO, because now all of a sudden it's changed once again. Yeah. And there's a stay. That's been issued on mandated vaccines. So now all of a sudden, we knew this would happen, right? They come out with a mandate and you say, no, you can't do that in our country. And that's just not how we work. So several states sue the government and they go to this, that, and the other court. And now we're saying, all right, well, we need to look at this. So there's a stay on the mandates now. So right now you can't mandate. The companies don't have to mandate that you're vaccinated. Now that could change tomorrow, but it's very fluid on a day to day. But you're right, Richard. And what we've seen is there are some clinicians that are fine with it. There are other clinicians that are basically, they dedicate their lives to a passion and a cause, and they're on the front lines. And some of them have never gotten a vaccine for one reason or another. My opinion, it really doesn't matter why. But like take flu season, for example. Every year we have a flu season, and every year tens of thousands of people die from the flu. Mm-hmm. If you're someone who's in a hospital, you have to do one of two things every flu season. You either have to get the flu vaccine or flu shot, or you have to wear a mask when you're in the hospital. And that's usually the requirement. If you don't get the shot, you've got to have a mask on at all times, especially if you're within 6 feet of a patient. The big argument was, okay, well, why is this different? And we've been a lot closer with these patients. And if for some reason I don't want to get the vaccine, then why can't I just wear a mask? So if it is mandated, then a shortage that is already in play with healthcare clinicians, especially nurses, has the potential to get severely worse, because there are some that are just going to say, all right, well, guess what? I'll leave the bedside and I'll go work somewhere else where I don't have to get the vaccine. And that would be tremendously unfortunate for patient care.
I'm glad I hear that. That's awesome, because I was in a meeting yesterday with some friends out in Harrisburg, and they were worried. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, I hope it doesn't hit light industrial. I hope at the end of the day it's your choice, and we all get along, because that's going to kill the industry if everybody's mandated.
Totally.
I think.
And yeah, there are stays, of course, now on all 3 of those mandates. So all of them are on hold right now. Again, as John said, though, that could change tomorrow. Who knows? But at least for now, the brakes are on all 3 of those. And I think, quite frankly, there's a pretty valid argument to blow those up. I think the argument that's being made is rather significant. It's pinging on this grave danger. OSHA only has the authority in a grave danger situation in the workplace to be able to use that ETS. And the courts are saying not only is it a constitutional issue, but they are going way beyond their authority to be able to be able to define this grave danger. I mean, if it's such a grave danger, how come it's only 100 companies with 100 people or more? Isn't it a grave danger if somebody with 99?
That's for a conversation after dark.
We're gonna get ourselves in trouble.
COVID doesn't like companies with, only likes companies with 100 people or more. It doesn't mess with the ones that are small.
That's fine. That's what I call COVID rules. It's like everybody makes up their own COVID rules on any given day. Oh my gosh! But you're so right. And really, let's get back to the focus of what we're trying to do here. And we talk about rebuilding the economy, and we talk about getting people motivated to return to work. Well, adding more restrictions does not lend itself to motivating more people to go back to work. So again, let's look at the big picture and do what we can to help our economy. That's just my thought.
No, the vaccine mandates, all of these things that we're doing, of course, there appears to be a very solid and valid reason for doing it. But you're right, John. What it ends up doing is putting more pressure on a system that's already broken. So It seems like somebody needs to step back and scratch their head and say, wait a minute, what we should be doing is flinging doors wide open. Let's do everything we can to make the most incentive for people to work. Now, how do we do that? And there's 100 ways you can do that. Throw money at people that go to work, not people that don't go to work. Let start with that, right?
I love it. Hey, Jay, I got to ask you a question. You running for Congress?
No, give me a hand then. I'll keep myself.
Is this your breaking out party right here today?
That's hysterical.
That's the last thing you find me doing. So,
Jay, I wanted to ask you a specific question on the Villing & Company website. You have an article, The 6 Marketing Lessons from the Pandemic.
Yeah.
And one of those I wanted you to kind of elaborate on. One of those lessons was, when you don't know what to say, then just say that. And what did you mean by that? Because I thought that was very interesting.
It's called transparency, right? It's just, let's first admit, like I said, I think we have to admit that we're going to have to just feel our way through this. Everybody likes to think they have the answer. And of course, me too. Right? I have my opinions, but they may be right. They may not be right. So I think the most important thing is we have to deal with reality. We have to deal with what is right in front of us right now, and call it what it is. Let's get it. Look, there's an elephant in the room. Everybody knows it. Let's call it an elephant and let's get on with things. So that's really what I was trying to say. Is if you're not sure, then if you don't know what to say, then say I don't know what to say. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Fine.
Great point.
Yeah, it is. So Jay, you work with a lot of companies, 2021. What do you think the biggest change is? I'm just going to throw out what I think it is, just dealing with companies. It's work-life balance. For candidates, they want that. That pays great. But I think 2021, with the pandemic and everything, they want that life back. And they really realize that simple things in life matter. What's your take on all this?
Yeah, that's a great point, Richard. I think there's a couple things going on there. And actually, there was an interesting article in yesterday's Wall Street Journal talking about this significant increase in people who were dropping out. They're quitting the Great Resignation isn't just a resignation. A lot of those people are going into business for themselves. I mean, there was a record number of incorporation filings so far this year. I mean, the number is 50% higher than it's ever been. So there's, I think the work-life balance, I think that's a big part of it is, I can continue to get beat up. Not only we're short people, so not only am I doing my job for 40 hours a week, but now I got to cover, the other 3 people that are gone. And that takes me another 10 or 15 hours a week. I'm working overtime every week. I'm killing myself. And, I leave when it's dark and I go home when it's dark. But hey, why not start my own deal? Now, I think a lot of those aren't going to make it. I think a lot of those will shake out, but I think it speaks to what you're saying, Richard. I think there's a lot of people that are saying, hey, there's got to be something better than this. And that's what a lot of people are doing. Not to mention, I think that's a threat to our industry, to be totally honest. I think those are people that, they're ending up either doing their own thing, through an incorporation of LLC or an S or something like that, or many of them are gigging it. So I think it's kind of a twofold threat. I think it's folks that are becoming entrepreneurs. Those are people that are dropping out of the workforce that now we can't place whatever role they might be suitable for. But the other thing is a lot of those then are ending up doing gig work. So and I think that's the other thing back to this work-life balance. A lot of folks are, they're going directly to nursing is one of them, John. You probably know this. There's a lot of automation that's placing nurses in facilities, and it's a direct, there's no intermediary. They're going directly to these gig platforms and getting their own jobs. I think there's a lot of that happening too. I think that's all a result though of this saying, oh man, this is killing me. I got to do something about this. But it's also at the same time, I think the staffing industry needs to look at that and say, well, potentially this is a threat. And I've said for a long time, I think the gig economy, they're going to be 1 or 2%. It's not going to be a big deal. But I think this pandemic is flipping that switch a little bit more than it makes me comfortable. I don't know how you guys feel.
I agree. And I think that's an angle that a lot of people overlook. We're so busy crunching numbers in the traditional fashion that we're not looking at things that have come out of the pandemic. And I agree with you 100%, Jay, in the sense that the pandemic afforded people, whether it was the money that came out of the federal government or from their own companies or whatever, they're at home, and it afforded them either to not work and start something new or to start a side gig with the intent that it might become something full time. And there was a lot less fear in doing that because they had the opportunity to do so. So who knows what's going to come out of this? I'm sure, with every great tragedy comes innovation. So we're going to have some disruptors that are going to surface in the next year or so that were, pandemic inventions. And it'll be interesting to see how it impacts the business climate in general and what it does to our industry. And, to your point, who knows it's still very fluid. Nobody's got a crystal ball here.
Right. So what can you do? Well, stay close to your clients and, do the best that you can to satisfy their needs. I mean, we have to communicate more with our clients. We have to communicate endlessly with our candidate base. I mean, it's all about communicating and just staying in touch and pushing the envelope a day at a time. Really, it is.
And being different. Be yourself. Just be you. And the rest will follow.
Hey, before we run out of time, I wanted to make sure that we touched on your book. SixFold Path of Business. What's it about, and where can people get it?
Yeah, well, it isn't a book yet. I know it shows a book there, so that's a marketing thing, right? So,
I like it. Well, hey, it got me searching for it, and I said, hey, I guess
John looking for it. Look at that. He's ready to purchase it.
I think I'm on chapter 3 right now, so I'm working really I do have a white paper on it though. But here's the idea.
It's coming.
Yeah. Here's the idea. The white paper's on the Terra Firma website. You can find it there. But the idea is, over the course of this 35 years that I was in staffing, again, as I said back in the beginning, when I first started, I didn't know anything about this. My partners didn't know anything about, we got bruises and broken teeth and broken arms and, lots of things that happen as a result of learning how to do it wrong, but we learned how to do it right as a result. And so over time, I've been able to look back and say, well, what are, typically when we have problems trying to get that, the hardest part is scaling from one level to the next. Growth sort of takes care of itself, but at some point it sort of flattens out and it tells you, okay, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm not going to find growth there. I've got to break something in order to get to the next level. And so the SixFold Path of Business are the 6, really, I call it's really like a dashboard. There are 6 things that I think that any staffing firm that wants to break through to that next level has to look at, repeatedly and drill down on them and see which one of those things, maybe it's all of them, but which one of those things are preventing me from breaking out of my growth plateau and getting to the next level, whether it's, your communication, your structure, the structure of your organization, the leadership team that you've got, how you conduct your business from day to day. Again, there's 6 different things I think that you constantly, at least I found that when I went back and looked at those, it was one or more of those things wasn't functioning properly or needed to be revised or needed to be, downgraded or upgraded and fixed. And that would ultimately, once I did that, it's like a hose. There was a kink in the hose somewhere. The water's not coming out the end. I have to find out where's the kink, and once I find the kink, then I can open it up, and then the water flows again. That's kind of the idea behind these 6 different pillars that I think are, the things that you build a business on.
I look forward to reading that.
I'm on chapter 3. I don't know how many chapters there are going to be, but I'm trying.
Is that a 2022 goal?
What's that?
Is it a 2022 goal?
Yes, absolutely. It'll be done next year.
We'll be seeing the book at Staffing World, John. It'll be there.
So that's my plan. You doubted me.
Outstanding.
You got it. Wow. Hey, Johnny, any final thoughts on our man here, Jay? Whew.
Something that Jay brought to light that I think is not discussed enough is that, just to reiterate that this is not a normal economic cycle. And so we can't treat it as such. And we can't solve the symptom. We have to solve the problem. And that's what I'll take away from this.
And the symptoms are easy to see. The problem's not so easy. But what we tend to do is whatever you see, it's what's the old saying? If you have a hammer, then everything looks like a nail, right? So that's not how this works. It's typically the symptom is a signal of something deeper that's not. I mean, you can keep trying to fix the symptom, but it's just going to keep popping up. It's like that little gopher game where you hit the gopher and the next one pops up. You've got to just take it all the way back to what is the root cause of this. If you fix that, the symptoms will go away.
He's got it all summed up. I'm going to.
Oh, did Richard freeze?
Yeah, I think he did.
That's a first.
No kidding. He doesn't.
Wow. I've frozen and even dropped off on occasion, but the host and the main lifeline has never. Richard, you froze. I was worried. I was
like, my! Did I freeze for a minute?
For the first time in the show's history, the lifeline froze.
The lifeline froze. Wow. You know why? Because we have a little special thing we're going to show out right now. Everybody, and yes, I cannot vote for myself here, but we have an award. We want everybody to vote. Jay, if you know anybody out there, put them up on this. The Recruiter of the Year.
That's it.
So if anybody's out there, John, just elaborate real quick on this. It's somebody besides getting the numbers, it's somebody's creative. And what else, John?
Absolutely. It's not just about who's your top producer. It's who's going above and beyond, who is doing that extra bit for their clients that might not be immediately reciprocated in the compensation, who's active in their community, who's on the ground, who's doing what they can to help the community and help the community get back to work, kind of above and beyond the average recruiter. So if there's someone out there that you feel fits that mold, we want to know about it and feel free to nominate them. There's some ways on LinkedIn. You can reach out to Richard or myself directly through any of our channels on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or respond to one of our posts on LinkedIn directly as a comment, and we'll keep track of it. And, you have till the end of the year to vote, and we'll announce it the second week of January.
And it's a nice trophy. I'm just going to warn you, we didn't show it out to anybody yet, but it's going to be pretty badass, is all I have to say. Hey, Jay, thank you so much for coming on. Jay, the official disco man of staffing. That's him. That's his new name, right?
Got it.
But it's always been a pleasure. We're going to invite you back. We're going to have a holiday social later this month. We're going to have some drinks and just have maybe 30 people on just to chat. So we're going to invite you to that, Jay. So it's always been a pleasure. One thing about Jay I'm going to wrap it up with, and then we're done, is he loves content. Just reach out to him. He's like the encyclopedia, really. He's like a Britannica encyclopedia. He knows a little bit about everything, and he'll help you out with your marketing or anything else. Hey, Jay, love you, brother, and take care. And we'll see you all next week on another episode of Recruiters with No Limits Live. Take care.
Thanks, Jay. Take care, guys.